Good evening, listeners. In this episode, I will run you through the 41st chapter of Thirukural, which falls under the Porul category. This chapter is titled Kallaamai, meaning lack of education or ignorance of knowledge, which in simple terms can be called being illiterate, and is the third Adhigaram under Porul category. In this chapter, Thiruvalluvar addresses the concept of illiteracy and ignorance and their consequences, emphasizing the importance of literacy and wisdom. This chapter is classified under the subcategory of Arasiyal, which translates to the art of ruling. The first two Kurals in this chapter explains the vanity of ignorance and illiteracy. The first Kural compares the words of an illiterate person to that of playing chess without a chessboard, showing how silly and pointless both these actions are. The second Kural compares the desire of an unlearned person to speak in an assembly to that of a girl without breasts desiring the pleasures of motherhood, to explain how silly and inappropriate these actions are. The third Kural says that the only way for an illiterate or an ignorant person to gain respect is to know to keep silence in front of learned people, as it will save them from a lot of embarrassment. The fourth Kural explains the disadvantage of being illiterate, even if one is intelligent. There are many people who are intelligent, but due to various social and personal reasons, are not formally literate. It is a fact that they do know about a subject through their hard earned experiences. We can see many such people in our workplaces, but unfortunately, their opinions are neither considered valid or official, even if they make absolute sense. Nor are these people considered for higher positions because they're not considered literate. There have been instances in history where individuals who were not formally educated or lacked recognized credentials were initially not taken seriously, even though their opinions or insights turned out to be correct. One such example is the case of Mary Anning. Mary Anning was a self taught fossil collector and paleontologist in the early 19th century England. She lived in Lyme Regis on the Jurassic coast, which is rich in fossil deposits. Despite having limited formal education, Anning had a deep curiosity about fossils and began collecting them from a very young age. In 1811, when she was just 12 years old, Mary Anning and her brother discovered the first complete Ichthyosaurus skeleton, a prehistoric marine reptile. Over the years, she made numerous significant fossil discoveries, including the first Plesiosaurus skeleton and the first British Theosaurus specimen. Mary Anning's knowledge of fossils and her contributions to the field of paleontology were substantial. However, as a woman without formal education and belonging to a working class background, she initially faced skepticism and resistance from the scientific establishment of her time. Many of her findings were credited to male scientists, and her contributions were not fully recognized during her lifetime. This Kural throws the light on how world works in reality and highlights the importance of being literate and not just intelligent. The fifth Kural explains what happens when a person who is ignorant of facts and figures speaks in a forum of learned people. The forum will be quick to find out that the person speaking does not know the subject in full, and the session ends in embarrassment for the ignorant speaker, and the forum will not entertain or approve of the ignorant speaker's opinion. There was a resurgence of the flat earth belief in the 19th century, particularly in the United States. During this period, proponents of the flat earth theory organized themselves into societies and held public debates to promote their views. One notable figure in this movement was Samuel Rowbotham, who wrote under the pseudonym Parallax. Rowbotham argued that the Earth was flat and published a book titled Zetetic Astronomy, Earth Not a Globe, in 1865. He became a prominent advocate for the flat Earth theory and held lectures and debates in which he challenged the prevailing scientific consensus that the Earth is a spherical planet. Rowbotham's arguments were based on observations made at low altitudes, such as the claim that distant objects should not be visible if the Earth were curved. However, his arguments lacked scientific rigor and ignored centuries of evidence supporting a spherical Earth, including observations made by astronomers, navigators, and travelers. Rowbotham's ideas were not accepted by the scientific community, and his debates with experts often ended with his views being criticized and dismissed. The prevailing scientific evidence overwhelmingly supported the spherical Earth model, and Rowbotham's claims were seen as lacking a solid foundation in physics and astronomy. This historical episode illustrates how individuals with limited knowledge and unconventional ideas can find themselves at odds with established scientific consensus when presenting their views in a learned forum. The sixth Kural explains how the world views the ignorant and illiterate as a mere liability. It says that those who lack education and knowledge in most cases lack usefulness and are considered of minimal value in terms of contribution. Hence, they are treated like a barren land that does not yield anything worthwhile and are not respected by anyone. They simply exist as a lower form of life. The seventh Kural is in a way an extension of what the sixth Kural explained. While the world sometimes values looks over knowledge, it is only a temporary euphoria the society has, and sooner than expected, the good looking ignorant person or an illiterate person is shown their rightful place in the society. That is, they will be treated in this world like a doll made out of clay, which is a mere showpiece devoid of any intrinsic value. Sometimes an illiterate or an ignorant person happens to be wealthy and powerful. The eighth Kural explains the hazard of such people being wealthy and powerful. It says that if there is a greater social evil than the poverty of an educated wise person, it is the wealth and power that lies with an ignorant person, because the latter can do more damage to the society. A learned person has more probability to restrain from involving in destructive activities even when they are poor. But that is rarely the case with the combination of ignorance and wealth. Wealthy people who are ignorant act in impulse. They tend to be unpredictable and are prone to erratic behavior, which harms both themselves and the society in which they are part of. While history has a whole list of such people, I can think of three people that are a perfect example for this. They are King Nero, King Louis XVI of France, and King Charles I of England. Nero was the Roman emperor known for his extravagant spending, lavish lifestyle, and indulgent behavior. His reign saw the Great Fire of Rome, which many historians believe he exacerbated for personal gains. His ignorance of governance and excessive spending eventually led to his downfall and a revolt that ended in his suicide. King Louis XVI was the last monarch of France before the French Revolution. Despite his wealth and position, his inability to address France's financial crisis and his reluctance to make necessary reforms contributed to the social unrest that led to the French Revolution. He eventually was executed by a guillotine. King Charles I's reign was marked by conflicts with Parliament over taxation and the extent of royal authority. His ignorance of political realities and his attempts to rule without Parliament's consent led to the English Civil War. He was eventually captured, tried, and executed. The ninth Kural explains that even if someone is born into a noble family and has a rightful claim to inheritance, they cannot equal the dignity that is reserved for the learned, even if the learned person comes from a humble background. The 10th Kural says that the living beings in this world can be classified under just two categories. Those who are learned and literate will alone be considered as humans, while the remaining populace will be classified as animals. My favorite pick from these 10 gems of wisdoms is the 10th Kural. This Kural explains that only those who have extensively read can be considered humans. Those who haven't read any worthwhile books, even though they are born as humans, have no significant difference from animals. Chimpanzees are highly intelligent animals and share a significant amount of genetic similarity with humans. They are also known for their problem solving abilities, tool usage, and complex social behaviors. They can be trained to perform specific tasks. Capuchin monkeys have been trained to assist people with mobility impairments by performing a range of tasks to help with daily activities. If this is the case, if life is all about growing up into adulthood and procreation, what is the difference between us and the animals? It is learning that sets us apart from animals. It is wisdom that qualifies us to become humans. With this, we conclude our sixth episode. I hope you enjoyed this episode, and I'm eager to connect with you in the next episode very soon. Until then, stay curious and stay connected.